After a very good flight, we were picked up and taken to our hotel. The next morning, we had a 3:30 a.m. flight to Raipur, and then a very long drive to the beautiful Singwana Jungle Lodge. We had both been to India before, but it amazes you when you see all the different colours and the different modes of transport, and sometimes what seems like chaos to us. When we arrived, we were given a very warm welcome and a tour around the main building, which was very impressive. This stick insect was on a tree just outside the main building. After a late lunch, we were soon off on our first safari drive in Kanha National Park. Our driver and guide, T, turned out to be extremely good and very patient. Once inside the park, we didn't have to wait long before we saw our first deer, Barasanga, also known as swamp deer. T, our driver, got us quite close to this male gaur, the biggest bovine in the world. I had seen females before, but this male was very impressive. This white-throated kingfisher was watching the proceedings. Then, all of a sudden, we saw our first male tiger. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. T said the gaur had moved the tiger away, so the tiger was looking for somewhere else to cool off. It was about 35 degrees. After going out of sight, he found this spot. Unfortunately, we could not see his whole body, but he had a beautiful face though. Tigers are the largest of the cat family, the male Bengal tiger being third largest of the tiger family, and arriving in India about 12,000 years ago. The male can weigh up to 565 pounds. These wild boar looked good in the late afternoon sun. As we headed back to camp, it had been an amazing afternoon. An early start and wondering what the day will bring. You never know what's round the corner. The samba deer are the favourite food of the tiger, so Mum is very wary and anxious about her little one. These Hanuman langur monkeys playing was definitely worth a watch. Perhaps these monkeys knew something I didn't. Then he gave us this wonderful display. Amazing. It is believed that all the chickens we have today all came from the Indian red jungle fowl. T stopped to show us where a tiger had been clawing and marking his territory. And then, just a little further on, there was a young female. T said she was about a year old. T thought he knew where she may come out into the open. And right on cue she appeared and caught up with her brother. That was a wonderful sighting. T moved off to try and see where they might go. And just up the road, there was Mum waiting for them. It was only a matter of time before the cubs arrived to follow their mum. This baby is only 2 or 3 days old and really clingy. Peacocks spend quite a lot of time in trees where it is relatively safe. This male cheetle carefully makes his way down for a drink and is on edge the whole time. we head back for lunch, having had a wonderful morning. After lunch, we have a wander around the campgrounds to see what we can film, and we weren't disappointed. We are back in the park at 4:30 as the heat starts to fade from 35 or so degrees. T took us back to the river where we had so much luck yesterday. The gal were back, but much further away, but still close enough to make a male tiger leave. We went back to the river and the gal had gone, and there was a beautiful male tiger cooling off in the river up from what T said was one of his daughters. Seeing those tigers was an amazing experience, and we had a lot to thank T for. These male Barasingha deer were nervous about something, but we had to be out of the park by 6:30. It had been another amazing day. We left early as usual and came across this rather gruesome sight. A young jackal and her son had killed a young cheetal. It is not very nice to see, but you have to bear in mind they can't go to Tesco's. T stopped to check out some pug marks, but decided they were too old. When we saw these two vultures, we thought they may be a kill, but no such luck. But they made some nice footage though. Kanha National Park covers an area of 360 square miles and was created in 1955 and is the largest tiger reserve in central India. Coming across this male tiger was a pleasant surprise. He was quite a long way away though. Seeing him ended a very good morning. After lunch we had a wander around our camp grounds, which was very fruitful. And then back to the park. As we head back to our camp, we could reflect on another wonderful day. Sadly, this was our last full day here at Kana National Park. It was a nice surprise to see these blackbuck. It is the first time I'd seen one, and this is not really their habitat. You don't realise how big the male gaur is until you get fairly close. It can be over 6 foot at the shoulder and weigh over 1.5 tons, but fortunately for us, it is quite a placid animal. This praying mantis, trying to look like a stick insect. He's not made a bad job of it. this white-throated kingfisher displaying to what seems a disinterested female. As soon as this jackal hears the cheetah alarm call, he knows the game is up, so he might as well sit down. We felt quite sad as our time at Kana was coming to an end. T, our guide, had been exceptional. This morning we say goodbye to our hosts and all the staff that looked after us so well. It is a place I will never forget. This morning we have a long drive back to Nagpur Airport for our flight back to Mumbai. We stay the night in Mumbai and leave early the next morning for Gir. Gir is the only reserve and just outside the reserve in the world where you can see Asiatic lions. Success is not guaranteed. There are only just over 500 left. After booking in and a late lunch, we set off for the park. There are 7 different routes, so over time you stand a much better chance of seeing lions. It was very much hotter here, 36, 39 degrees and very dry and arid. The park covers an area of 545 square miles and was established in 1965 to try and save the Asiatic lion, which was on the edge of extinction. There was only about 100 left. I thought this oriental honey buzzard looked beautiful in the early morning light. This very young one starting to learn how to climb. This nightjar, with its amazing camouflage, so difficult to spot. Another Indian nightjar, this time with two young ones. Again, very difficult to spot. At last, our first lioness, unfortunately doing what lions do most of the time, lounging around and sleeping. Sorry, I can't resist filming such a spectacular display. Suddenly, we spotted this lioness wanting to cross the track, so we stopped and let her go. This little girl wanted her picture taken. A male plum-headed parakeet feeding his chosen female to prove he can feed her and their offspring, all part of their courtship. A red-naped ibis catching a nice juicy frog. This mottled wood owl was a very nice find and well camouflaged. I was very lucky to get these shots of a very obliging oriental honey buzzard. At last, our first male Asiatic lion, suffering from the 36-degree temperature, just as we were. The nilgai, or blue bull, means literally blue cow, is the largest Asian antelope and is endemic to the Indian subcontinent. An adult male has short horns. The incredible camouflage of this oriental Scops owl is amazing.
Sorry.
Yet another friendly oriental honey buzzard, although by now it was incredibly hot. This young lioness wandered along and came very close to us, and then laid down and waited for her brother. It was a very nice experience. It was a shame we were coming to the end of our time in Guyana National Park, but had seen and filmed some amazing things. After our final morning drive in Guy Park, we head back to camp to pack up and leave for a 4-hour drive to Velavador grasslands, our next camp.
बाईक पण आहे सारा करके मतलब ने वेदात वेदात नान नहीं कहता भाई वो चालू गाड़ी में भैया हाथ से बात करे.
After what seemed a very long drive, we quickly booked in and set off on our first drive in the grasslands. One thing we did notice, it was extremely hot, 40 plus. The black buck is an antelope and is found in the whole of India and Pakistan and is mentioned in the Hindu religion and therefore is not harmed by the vast majority of India. Therefore it is doing well. This grey francolin teaching her young ones how to forage for food. This is a nice clear view of a male nilgai, or bluebull. And so ended our first day here. Very successful, but extremely hot. Up and away early to see what the day would bring. We spotted this Indian fox. Unfortunately, it was a long way off and very nervous, so we waited till he or she relaxed a bit. That paid off in the end. We thought he or she was leaving, but went to a spot and there was another one. This was a rare sighting. I had never seen a striped hyena before, and again it was a long way off, but a good sighting. In the afternoon, our guide said he would take us to an area where he lived, which was a short drive away and outside the park. He took us to his house to collect a bird book and introduced us to his wife and daughter. And of course, they wanted their picture taken.
Very pretty.
In the yard was the washing machine, without the motor. We went for a short walk along a small stream and got a few nice shots. Then, back in the truck, he took us over some farmland. We came across 2 pairs of Indian courser, and they seem to be on eggs. They are really beautiful birds. Back at camp, after lunch, we had a wander around a small area of shrubs and turned up some nice species to film. We were then taken out of the reserve to try and see some flamingos. They were a very long way away. We broke the rules though and walked a little closer. The Indian wolf is smaller than the subspecies found in Europe and North America, and they mate for life. Our last look at the blackbuck. Tomorrow we have a long day. We're off to Kaziranga, the other side of the country and further north. Up early, we had quite a long drive to the airport, but it was interesting. On arriving at Guwahati Airport, we asked our driver if he could take us to the local rubbish tip, as we had heard there was an extremely rare bird there, called the greater adjutant stork. We had not prepared ourselves for the smell. It was horrendous, but there were the storks. It was hard to believe that they were one of the rarest birds in the world. It was quite an eye-opener to see all these young women and children trying to make a living out of all this waste. The greater adjutant stork is one of the largest living storks and is cousin to the Malibu stork and the saddlebill stork in Africa. There are only 2 breeding sites in the world, one in Kaziranga, where we are going, and one in Burma. The world's population is now down to less than 1,000 individuals. You can't imagine having to work in 30 degrees plus and with that horrendous smell every day just to make a living. We were very pleased to leave, and it makes you realise that we have very little to moan about. We now head for Kaziranga, which is about 4 hours away, and a good night's sleep. Arriving early at the entrance to the reserve, Peter sets off to check the paperwork. This wild boar having a snooze after a long night searching for food and trying to keep safe. The eastern Barasanga deer are a subspecies of the Barasanga deer we saw further south in Kalna. You will notice that the coat is much shorter and tidier. Our first one-horn Indian rhino. The male can weigh up to 2.2 tonnes, and there are 2,413 in the reserve, an increase of 12 since 2015, so they are just holding their own. The Asian elephant is smaller than the African elephant, the male weighing in at just over 4 tonnes. It is listed as endangered, as the population has fallen by 50% in the last 70 years. The trunk contains 60,000 mussels. The size of Kaziranga National Park is 117 square miles and was established in 1908 and has many rivers and lakes within it. The Indian one-horn rhino separated from the Sumatra rhino about 10 million years ago and is now larger than the Sumatra rhino. Bar-headed geese spend the winter in the lowlands of India and migrate north over the Himalayas to breed on the Tibetan plains. They have been recorded flying at 23,000 feet. This must be the local laundrette. Can you imagine the length of time and effort needed to plough that field with a single farrow at a time, and so straight? Unfortunately, it just started to rain, which made some roads unusable. It is just the start of their rainy season, and very soon the Brahmaputra River will flood the whole of the park. All the animals leave the park and cross a very busy road and head for higher ground. This includes the people who live in the park as well. It was very nice to see the Khalij pheasant, male and female. I have never seen them before. We were very lucky to come across this male greater hornbill, and he performed beautifully.
Okay.
The wild water buffalo was declared an endangered species in 1986, with a worldwide population of less than 4,000. 91% of these live in India, and unfortunately their numbers are still falling. About 1,400 live in Kaziranga, so we were very lucky to see them.
color on it.
Oh, okay.
The one-horned rhino are good swimmers, and this big male seems to fancy some grass just in front of us. Unfortunately, it was raining quite hard when we came across this family of smooth-coated otters. It was nice to see them fishing and looking out for one another. Unfortunately, they did not stay long. A little while later, we caught up with them, cleaning themselves and playing. It was lovely to watch. It had nearly stopped raining when we went back to see what was going on, and there they were, having a well-earned snooze. Sadly, we leave the park for the last time. It has been an amazing experience and we have seen lots of lovely things. Today we are off to a tea plantation at Jorhat where we will spend the night. It will take us about 5 hours. Our driver is going to stop where there should be some Indian flying foxes. We had to go into someone's garden to film the flying foxes, and I was lucky enough to film a mating pair. After settling in and a wonderful cup of tea, we went for a walk around the grounds. Although the weather was very dull, we did see a nice selection of birds. Another very nice orb spider. It has been another very good day, and tomorrow we hope to see the Hulak gibbon at Jorhat Forest. On our way to Jorhat Forest, we go through a small town with a very busy market. At last, we arrive at the Gibbon Sanctuary with just the sounds of the jungle. Wonderful. It is extremely hot and humid. It doesn't take long before we see our first butterfly. A few yards along, there was this magnificent female giant wood spider. The male is tiny, and she has probably eaten him anyway. After about half an hour, we heard our first gibbon calling, and they weren't far away. We did do a lot of chasing and had a lot of disappointments, but we did manage to get a few shots of both male and female and a little bit of grooming, so we were very pleased in the end.
Gone now.
I did manage to get a shot of this juvenile pig-tailed macaque, so that was nice. It must have been some worm to make a cast like that. The amount of insects we saw on the way back to the car was just amazing. This Malaysian giant squirrel said goodbye to us as we left the forest for the last time, as this was the end of our wonderful time we had spent in India. The people had been kind, our guides had been amazing, and we had seen some wonderful creatures. One last night in Kaziranga, and then an early start the next morning, and a long journey home by road and air.